My story is a little bit different than I feel like a lot of YouTubers where they have to be like, I quit my day job.
If you ever go on either YouTube or Google and you type in pattern plywood, you just dominate the page.
You know, you're losing your audience. You need to like punch it up. And I have subsequently kind of built a brand around pattern plywood.
Welcome to K&S Creators Collective. My name is Scott. I'm here with Michael Alm.
How's it going, guys?
You may know Michael from his YouTube channel or his business, AlmFab, or maybe you know him from his different amazing sculpture work that is in nationally recognized galleries, or maybe you know him from Wormwood Gaming and the Worm Life channel, just from seeing him through his collaboration with Wormwood Gaming as well. I'm gonna roll a perception check. I need to see what is going to happen here today. What are we gonna look at first?
I'll grab you a D20. Let's just start with a shop tour. Yeah, so this is kind of the multifunctional space. This is the metal shop primarily when I'm working in here and filming in here, but we also got like a lot of storage and transitional space. So this building was built in like 95 or so, and when they built it, they didn't install the door right. And so the door has been leaking since probably 1995, and I opened it up and these studs right here were completely rotted. Like I could literally grab it with my hands and rip it apart. You can see that in the video. It's my camera rig.
Oh yeah, let's definitely gotta see where the magic happens.
What I film everything on, and this is called a jib. So the way that you use it, you can loosen it and you can raise it. A lot of people use it to do motion shots, but what I like about it is rather than fiddling with a tripod all the time and adjusting the legs constantly, I was finding I would lift up the tripod, adjust every foot, and you don't have to do that anymore. You just do this. Like if I need to get over the top of my table saw, I can film like that. And then this is on a ball head, so I can point it, wherever. When I switched over to this year, it just sped up my filming so much. Moving forward, this is divided into three. My office is in here, which has been another big project.
This is cool.
And I just love this space. It's kind of halfway between an office and a makerspace. The desk, the desk is about to change. I'm building a sit-stand desk for in
Well,
here.
you know what? Hey, there's so much attention that needs to go to everything.
Yeah.
You gotta build into it. And you've done a video on the paneling and everything too, which is very beautiful. For anybody that's probably like an audiophile or has like a studio, watch his video because you can learn some things on how to set that up.
It's all DIY too. Like I made a conscious decision in this space to use mostly reclaimed materials, and I mean these are hand built just with like painter cloth and some insulation in them. And then these were Craigslist bought acoustic foam, and like even the paneling came from a salvage place here in Seattle. So a lot of the stuff in here is upcycled and rebuilt, which I really enjoy that challenge of working with materials that you can find easily. This is the main shop that we're going into now. I've got a few tools hanging on the walls, but this is mostly just like, this is the wood shop. So where I film most of my videos, like probably 99% of footage comes from this room.
You have something you're working on too. I think we just talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is the desk that it's just the hardware. I haven't actually started in on the woodworking, but I'm opening it up, just trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. So it is a sit-stand desk, so it's gonna go up and down. I'm hoping to cover up the metal framework of it, and I've got a bunch of plans for integrated storage of like hard drives, and obviously cable management is a big thing with these desks because it has to raise up and down, so all the cables have to be contained. But I'm hoping, I do a lot of things with plans, or I sell plans from my projects, and so hopefully I'll have a set of plans for this as soon as the video comes out.
So you're basically gonna like skin this in your style of woodworking.
Yeah, I want it to look like a wooden desk that's a little less industrial than
a couple, because this is cool that you have a new project, because there's your video about the Murphy bar, which is awesome.
So the Murphy bar is something that I built really early on my channel. Is like my 5th or 6th video. So I don't talk in the video at all, but I went back and watched it. It's still
awesome.
Pretty decent video. Murphy bed is a bed that's hidden in a wall. Murphy bar is basically a full service bar that you can sit at with, like, you can keep all your liquor inside of it, and it's a cabinet and it goes against the wall, and it's only 10 inches deep. So it's really ideal for small space living. It's a bar, but it can also be, dining room table or gaming space. I feel like it's the only piece of furniture that I feel like I kind of invented. Like, you build a table, you build a stool, you build like things that are defined. A Murphy bar, I kind of have to explain to people, but when I do, a lot of people kind of light up. They're like, oh, I could use one of those. Those would be great in my basement, or like in my small apartment where I don't have a dining room. We're in that situation too. We live in a really small space. So a lot of things that I make are conscious of small space living.
So I know a big way that people set up their shop is to make sure that's functional for them. Can you show us a little bit of like how you set up your shop and why that works for you when it comes to either content or just functionality as far as making things?
Yeah, I mean, I give it a lot of thought, obviously, and this space has transformed a lot. We can go over here.
Sure.
This is the most recent. It's funny, I feel like my shop goes in phases. I'm gradually working my way all the way around the shop, and then when I get to the other side, I'm like not happy with it anymore, and I have to rebuild it. So this was a case, like this was probably the oldest section of my shop, and at the beginning of the year, I redid it, and I love this space because it's just very, like I know how I work here. I love the drill press, having access to all the drill bits right here, super organized. I've got sanding right here. It's pretty much just like getting aware of how you move through the space. And then I also just like it looking nice because I'm in here a lot and I shoot videos here. So the aesthetics are pretty important. I think I probably would have done this even if I wasn't making videos, because there's something about walking in your shop and just looking at the space that if you enjoy it, you're going to want to be in there and you're going to want to spend more time in there. I still have plans to redo this section. I kind of cleaned it up recently a little bit more, kind of think about how I want to use it again, but I promise you by the end of this year, I will take this whole side apart and rebuild it and probably make it match this a little bit better. And then I'm looking at my workbench. You ask about like making for camera versus making for yourself, and that workbench is a perfect example of a style of workbench that doesn't work for filming, because like when you're filming, it's way easier to have a flat surface here and the camera across, whereas that I have to, I've got all my tools in front of me, but like I could stick a GoPro here, but I can't get a good shot, and I'm constantly like trying to reframe it because I'm the only one working in here. I don't have a camera person, so I end up getting shots from the side. Basically how you're shooting right now of when I work, which is not the best.
You need
angle.
the Insta360.
Yeah, there you go.
We just talked about this extensively a little bit, but you've become well known for a particular style of woodworking, which is pattern plywood. Mm-hmm. And if you ever go on either YouTube or Google and you type in pattern plywood, you just dominate the page. Another Woodshop podcast, they kind of call you the almighty king of pattern plywood. Yeah. And you say on there, I thought this was so cool, you could build a brand strictly off just pattern plywood. And that's what you're doing and what you've done.
It was something really weird when I made the first pattern plywood piece. I told my partner Ashley, I was like, I think this is a thing. Like, I think it was weird. I got that feeling of like, I think I could really lean into this, and I saw a vast potential. And every time I mess with it, I discover new patterns and I discover new techniques, and like things as simple as adding a dyed black veneer changes the entire pattern, the whole look of it. And so learning that process has been super fun, and I have subsequently kind of built a brand around pattern plywood.
So woodworking is such like a broad palette to, I guess pun intended too, broad palette to draw from. And I know there's a lot of different things you could do with it. And we actually just kind of talked to Chris Zepp about this too. But competition is really great when it comes to YouTube, and you have referrers of your content. So was there ever any decision to go into the pattern plywood side of things from, niche down to stand out? Like what was your mindset as far as like being able to put this content out and have people watch your videos? I mean,
I think the response to pattern plywood in video form, it was noticeable. Like, people were really into it and they wanted to see more, and I was excited about it. I think core value when I've been building this channel has been focusing on what genuinely excites me and interests me and I want to keep doing, because I feel like it's a dangerous path to go down, like, oh, I should be doing this. So I really like to just kind of trust my instincts as an artist, as a creator. It's being like, what am I going to enjoy doing? And pattern plywood has stayed really enjoyable to me.
I think authenticity as an artist always just, it comes through. So if people, like, if you're not really into what you're doing, it's going to show.
Yeah, people read that
Yeah.
so quickly.
And your talent isn't just bound to woodworking, but I guess what made that for you as you've made that more of a focus? What is specifically about woodworking just drew you to that?
Well, I've been woodworking since I was a little kid. It's like one of the more accessible crafts in terms of like buying tools off Craigslist, and like I feel like people find a need for woodworking in their own homes a lot, and I found that myself. Like when college, I was doing a lot of welding and metal work, but when I like got into real life and was like, oh, I need to buy tools, finding a shop with a concrete floor. So I ended up gravitating towards woodworking for the same reason that there are so many people looking at woodworking videos, because it's a need, it's accessible, it's a craft that just never ends.
Yeah.
You can learn so much about it and it just never stops.
I admittedly thought like, well, how much can you do with this niche down version? And it's when I saw the axe handle that you did, I'm like, you can do anything. Ironically enough, you in Missouri went to Washington University and now you live in Washington State.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty like ironic.
Washington University in St. Louis, which confuses everybody out here.
Yeah.
In a weird way, YouTube sort of feels like art school again, because I have a lot of peers, a lot of people that I'm talking to constantly on Instagram and on Patreon and stuff like that, and it's just like really cool to have immediate critique of your work, and like the video structure of putting out a video, seeing if it does well, seeing what the comments are like, is really synonymous to the art world.
Your sculptures are awesome, but I guess where do you focus on aspects like that? Because seeing the fox head, it's beautiful. The fox head's beautiful. The hawk and the snake, beautiful. How much time do you get to focus more on those types of projects as opposed to maybe like your everyday household stuff?
I mean, that's taken a back seat the last few years, mostly because I really wanted to build AlmFab, and I wanted to, like, over COVID, I really focused hard on educational content. So like training people who are getting into the craft. And so the sculpture stuff is not really user friendly. It's a little more abstract.
That takes a certain person, I feel like, to do that. Whereas like I think a lot of educational pieces, plans, so many more people can do that. It's not the fact, I'm not trying to sell people short on their talents either, but
no, I do hope to do some more sculptures on the channel in the future, because I do think there's lots that people can learn about how to make a form that's not rectangular, like how to shape things, and that's something that I really want to get into later on in the channel.
Because I dug up an old social media post.
Oh no.
You were between either being a scientist or a maker,
Oh,
and
wow.
thanks to Adam Savage, you realize you can do both. So a lot of what you're doing, with starting YouTube is just seeing, throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. Mm-hmm. But what, I guess, advice would you give to people who were in that boat before and you were inspired by somebody like that? Like, what advice would you say to people who are like, I'm between this and this, I can only do one, but really, you don't have to.
I mean, it's wild, like what my career path. So I studied sculpture, I studied film and media studies, and I was a theater kid in high school. And like looking back on it, and I've heard a lot of people say this. Adam Savage is the same way. He talks about it like, I don't know how, but I found a career that was exactly all of these interests just sort of came into one spot. So I think just trusting your instincts is something that, like listening to the wild hares that you have. Like, it's like I'm a big proponent of being like, you want to learn, basket weaving, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like take a class and see, like, why are you interested in that? And maybe you take something from that and move forward with it. The beauty of YouTube is that it's just so flexible and allows for a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. Not just makers, like there's people doing all sorts of stuff on YouTube that I just think it's a career that I didn't even know was possible, obviously, when I was in college. And it's way more enjoyable than being a gallery artist, which is what I was striving for like 10 years. And it kind of worked, and I was kind of just really not just barely making things, you know, making ends meet. So.
But that love is still there, and there's still an ability to do it. But now you can do all those things, and they're finding ways to weave in and out of your everyday things as well, which is awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm not proposing that everybody become a YouTuber, but I think what it is more like just listening to your own, like taking some time to think about what you want and going for it. Like giving yourself a little bit of leeway to just give it a go. Like you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to like nail it in one. My old videos kind of suck. And like I was able to just sort of figure out from each one progressively how to do it a little bit better. And I was doing it as a side hustle. It was not my main job for the first several years of making YouTube videos.
So being back in the studio, I like it in here just because I feel like a musician, it's like perfect for that. It reminds me of being back in the studio recording a song. How much time do you get to spend in here?
A lot. I mean, this is what people don't see on YouTube, is like how much work is actually at a desk. I mean, I'd say it's almost 50-50 woodshop to desk work.
Are you editing and doing everything, or do you have outside work that you bring into this as well?
So my buddy Eric, who owns the Murphy Bar, he helps with the rough edit. He sees the project without the voiceover, so he has to kind of figure out what's important, what's not. I'll take over after he gets basically as far as he can, and then I'll put usually another day or two into editing and then adding my voiceover, adding whatever extras I want to, and then I send it back to him and he'll do final pass of like color correction because he's better at that stuff than I am. That's been working really well for a while. We've been doing that for probably two years, maybe a year and a half. But before that, I was doing soup to nuts, all of it, and it's a lot. It's especially my videos are fairly long. I mean, it's 20 to 35 minute long videos. So
your journey as far as owning your own business and starting this from the ground up, was that like a massive leap of faith? Because you've talked about it before with being, you know, you had a day job before. Yeah. Was it more of a leap of faith or like a smooth transition where this was starting to sustain itself? Where were you at when you made a decision to start your own and make this the focus?
My story is a little bit different than I feel like a lot of YouTubers, where they have to be like, I quit my day job.
Yeah.
My day job was kind of this before. I had already quit my day job to start AlmFab, but as a fabrication design company making rooms like this. Like this is the kind of bread and butter stuff that I did, like finished carpentry, making built-ins. But I was finding that the stuff was really monotonous, and the stuff that people would ask me for was, just to be frank, boring. Like they wanted, you know, the clients just had needs. They were like, I need this bookcase and I need it to fit in here and I need it to look like this to match the rest of the casework in the house. And I could do that stuff, but I wasn't finding it very fulfilling. So on the side, I decided to make my own work, my own furniture, just to kind of prove and have a portfolio piece that was like, this is what I'm capable of. So hire me for this, don't hire me for that. And gradually I got better and better clients doing cooler and cooler things. But I also was like, you know, shooting videos of this stuff because I was like, I want to document this whole process. And that became the channel, and that became a much bigger part of the business fairly quickly. Like within two years, I would say, I was feeling growing pains where the channel was A, more fun, B, more interesting, and C, it started making more money than the client work. And the clients, I had great clients, people that I loved working with, but I was on their time schedule, and it was getting kind of awkward to be like, hey, can I film in your house? And most of the times they would be like, yeah, sure. I've got a lot of videos that are like that. Installing the Murphy bed is one of them. Your
YouTube shots are really great. Like the way that you put attention to detail with everything. Yeah, 100%. Even we were talking about just a little while ago, I don't know if it made it in the cut, but we were talking about a little while ago with the intro. The detail on that.
Everybody has their own filming style, and if it's true to you and it's true to what you like, I guarantee you there will be other people out there who like it as well. A good example of this is when I edit videos, I edit them to the point where I can just sit and I'll find myself just like sitting and watching. I'm like no longer nitpicking it. I'm just
appreciating your own work.
Yeah, I just end up just really enjoying the video, which is maybe a little.
I don't. You don't have to say it. I don't feel like that's a conceited thing, because when you create, there's like an admiration over what you did, because like I did that. It's not like an overly like egotistical thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think it's beautiful to appreciate what you do.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is nice, like in the same way that you'll stand back from a piece of furniture that you built and be really proud of it. All makers kind of have that feeling of like, you'll set something on your desk and just be like, it lives there for a little while just because I'm enjoying that I made it and that it's done.
You started to talk about this a little bit, but your videos are a little bit longer. And I'm just kind of comparing you to a very small field of other creators. When you create a video, are you thinking anything, or like within your edit, are you thinking, well, is this going to drop at retention? Is this going to, when it comes to like, I guess the analytics of YouTube, how much does that weigh on you creating videos and keeping an audience? Does it really even matter for you?
I mean, yeah, it does, because it's my business. I mean, I have to consider, like, my main income is from making those videos. I love when I can sit and watch somebody watch my video, because you can sense that like body language shift of like, oh, I kind of want to pick up my phone right now, or oh, I kind of want to look over here, you know, not quite paying attention. And those are the moments that, you know, you're like, you're losing your audience. You need to like punch it up or tighten it up. And I probably watch each video like 10 times before it goes live. So I get to that point where it's like paced wrong, or you'll find the pacing's off. I don't know if I pay as much attention to the analytics as I did in the beginning, because at this point I feel like I know my audience pretty well. I know the pace of my videos. I know the pace that people expect from my videos. And it's a little slower than some other channels, and I'm okay with it. I really like it, because I think that there's a little too much stress these days on like really speeding up edits and short attention spans, which I genuinely don't think is that healthy. You know, I don't think it's great for our minds.
I love it. I agree with that. You can only move one way so much. You got to have some compromise when it comes to those things.
My real life pace in the shop is genuinely pretty slow.
Yeah.
Like I sand for hours, and I apply finish, and I like that process of like the slow pace of building a thing. It's like it's rhythmic. It's like it's meditative. And if you don't show that in your videos, then you're not being true to like it's actually like to be in my shop. I mean, it's definitely a polished version of being in my shop, but you can kind of feel that, like, you know, there's effort going into this.
I agree.
You want to show the realness of the shop, like the real thing, like how when you sand for hours, like you want to showcase some of the weight of that. Because at the end of your video this morning when I was watching, it was you doing this whole setup here.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, I'm like, man, I did something too. like I feel like I was a part of that process. It was more lengthy, but I just felt like I was right there. Like even when you were hammering, I'm like, I wasn't thinking when you were in a cut next. I'm like, I actually want to watch the nail go all the way through on both ends of the brush.
Yeah, that's good.
It feels good.
Yeah. So many people cut so much out, and
I know.
And I don't know. I think back on the TV that I was really inspired by growing up, and like obviously all the woodworkers. Norm Abram is like the king, but like Roy Underhill. I mean, he did live woodworking. Like every episode, I think it was a 2-camera show. He filmed it inside of 25 minutes. He did the projects inside of, I think Roy's still making that show. I mean, they've been making it for public television for like ever. You know, it's one thing to just hit all the like satisfying notes of a project, but it's another thing to like feel accomplishment at the end of the video that it got done. And I love that you said that you felt that. You felt invested in the project, because that's what I want. Like, that's the fun of it for me. So why wouldn't I share that aspect with the audience of like, we went through this together, like the building this office. So many people were involved so many people messaged me of like things I could do, ways to improve. And it got better because it's already on its 4th video making this. So I've been listening to people's comments and making improvements and being like, oh yeah, that doesn't look right, so we'll fix that. And Same thing with the rebuilding the wall. I've had a lot of people being like, your framing's, you know, there's a couple things you could improve, and I'm going to be redoing some stuff that I did in the last video because they're right, and it's better because it's not just me.
That's the whole point of community. But I think also what's interesting too about, you know, it's like I bring up 20, 30, 40-minute videos, and they're doing well. You have equity in people, and I think that's a big thing with YouTubers or makers or whoever. Once you build that equity in an audience, they'll stick around. They'll stick around for 40 minutes because they're really genuinely interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny. It still shocks me today that people... So when I first started on Instagram, or when stories came out on Instagram, I remember this moment of like, nobody really wants to see what I do every day. Like, nobody really wants to like watch. And this might have even been... I can't remember if that happened pre-YouTube or kind of around the same time as YouTube. I started shooting, and I just basically had friends that were watching my stories, and they were like, what you do in a day is so different from my day-to-day that it's just really interesting to watch. So I leaned hard into stories. I'm still doing it. Probably my favorite aspect of Instagram is like just communicating every day with like the random stuff that's happening in the shop, what's on my workbench, and the responses I get are great. And then I do the same thing. I follow a whole bunch of people in stories like Jimmy and Ben Paik, Wobie.
How much focus do you have on short form content? I know we kind of brought up the whole TikTok thing, but
yeah,
what's more beneficial for you and your business when it comes to short form content, like Instagram Reels or Stories or YouTube Shorts or TikTok?
I have a mixed relationship with short form content. I really enjoy long form. I like telling long stories. I like involved projects, obviously. I like multi-video projects. But I do think there's a place for the short form content. I love doing tips and tricks on there, and I love just kind of showcasing and like teasing a video through there. I think it's a really good way to communicate. I'm not sure, like I'm still sort of finding my footing with TikTok. I think a lot of us are, and it changes so much that I haven't put a lot of, well, honestly, like I love YouTube, and like I like my core focus is on that. But if I find things that I would say I introduce things kind of sparsely on TikTok and Instagram when I think they fit and they're good, and I stand behind them.
But when something, like you said, when something kind of, you pull a rabbit out of a hat and you're like, this works on TikTok, let me put it there. You put it there, but you're not being intentional necessarily. Be like, I need to make something for TikTok or YouTube Shorts.
I don't really produce for that.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about just collaboration, like even going back to collaboration with your dad and making a boat, but you've done some collaborations with Bourbon Moth or Tyler Bell, or in the case that we've kind of been coming back to throughout the video, Wormwood. And so I guess what's your approach when going into something like a collaboration? Is it something you're actively looking to do, or do they just kind of find you?
Yeah, I think when it feels right, it's right. I think, you know, I'm not actively pursuing collaboration unless I'm like, this would be awesome to work with you. In the Wormwood case, they came to me after I posted a YouTube comment on one of their videos, and that felt pretty kismet. The more I did research into their company, the more I liked them, and I'm pretty sure that they like working with me too, hopefully. And
you're featured in like 4 or 5 videos, so I think they like working with you.
I mean, that crew is awesome, and same thing like working with Jason. More of like building the boat with Jason Hibbs was like we just felt like it was right, and that was a moment. I mean, I almost didn't even care that we made a video. It was like so cool to work with somebody on that level. I'd never worked with somebody who I feel was like really, like we jived really well together in the shop, and didn't really have to tell each other a lot of what to do. Like that, those moments are rare, and it's really fun to work with somebody who's as capable as he is.
What has your experience been with the maker community? You started to kind of tap on it a little bit, but where did that start for you, and how did you kind of get in that you're friendly with a lot of people now?
Yeah, I mean, it was so wild. It's been insanely positive. And I mentioned Mike, industrial maker, Mike Clifford. He was one of the first people to see one of my videos and comment, and then he invited me out to Maker Fair. He's like, "You're coming to Maker Fair." The one, it was in San Francisco, and I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." I knew his videos, I knew him. He was, he had a really strong channel that he was also, in the infancy of his YouTube, but he was like, he took me under his wing immediately and then introduced me to a whole bunch of people. It's been like the most warm, friendly, inviting community of people. Like, Jimmy the same way. Like, first time I met Jimmy, he just, he shook my hand and then we talked for like half an hour about making art. Like, it didn't feel this disconnect of like, oh, but you're, so-and-so. It's, and I'm just a so-and-so. Like, it's been really, really positive and really supportive. And like on Instagram, the amount of people that I talk to frequently, and now I have, their numbers, and I'm texting, and like, if I have an issue with a thumbnail that I don't like, I'll send it to like 5 or 6 of my friends, and they all have opinions that I can take in and change things up, and it's all been about bettering like all of us at once, which I am so appreciative of, and try and give back to when other creators, smaller channels approach me and they're like, "Hey, what am I doing wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm happy to tell you." I mean, you're probably not doing it wrong, but you're like, learning. Yeah. So like, what works for you? How can we improve this? Like, I can give my artist take of like what's visually not aligning, or like help with design stuff. But we all have this part to play in this this ecosystem. It's a fantastic. Like, I honestly, I'm shocked by it every day, how kind the community has been.
Well, this has been great. I think a lot of people who are watching have gotten a ton out of your work ethic, just where you're going, your mindset, and it's been great for me. I love to see entrepreneurs and creators and artists doing their thing, and you are no exception, my friend. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dog in the room.